So that Tuesday, I fly home. Now, I have to say this, I'm going to share some personal details in this video, but I'm going to try and be respectful. And so sometimes you're going to need to read between the lines, but I think you guys can all figure it out. I fly home, and during this time, just there was had been a lot going on, with my family and my fiance, with her stuff that had happened with her family, a tragedy, previously, and we just went through a trial the year before. Again, I'll say it once for this video, but my fiance, my son's mom, was Jennifer Hudson, and anyway, so during this time, um, she had been traveling, but I had been on the road like crazy, for WWE, not just working and doing the live events, the pay per views, but also I was now promoting The Call, which had just come out. So I had been gone for nearly a month straight, and I hadn't seen her much. I tried to see her, but, and because she works a lot too and was traveling. Um, anyway, during that week, in speaking with her, um, she indicated to me basically, I was given an ultimatum that if I left for work that Friday, that I wouldn't have a family to come home to. Um, so I'll take you back to that morning. And it was Friday, I believe it was March 22nd, 2013. And um, my recently deceased cousin Brian, rest in peace, was traveling with me. So I used to take Brian on the road with me, and I started taking him on the road with me. Uh, so part of it at the end of New Nexus. Sometimes he would ride with us, with Joe and I, and he was cool with Wyndham, with Bray Wyatt. He always called him Husky, no matter what. But like, Brian was around the boys a lot, and even Cena knew Brian. He gave him a nickname. Cena called him Entourage, because for a while that's what Brian was. Like, he was like my shadow. But part of the reason, if I'm being honest, was I needed him there as a buffer, because was starting to learn with all the backstage politics and stuff. Like, I wasn't second generation, I didn't have siblings there. I didn't come up on the independent scene, and I had a target on my back because I was Punk from I Love New York too. So I needed somebody who was on my side with me, kind of to watch out for me, like backstage and stuff. And Brian's like my best friend. So I used to pay, for his travel. So I would pay for him to fly with me, like on these loops, like a lot of the time. He probably came with me 3 weekends out of the 4 each month. Anyway, on this particular day, we were flying out of Chicago O'Hare Airport. I believe we were on American Airlines, and I had been texting back and forth, with my fiance. We'd been, on the phone, and things were pretty serious. And so, trying to explain to her, I have to go to work, and talking to her, trying to be there for her. And she was coming in from somewhere because she hadn't even been home that weekend, and I had only been home for a couple days, and just, switch out my clothes, and to the point where we were missing each other that Friday. So I had to leave before she even was going to make it to the house, like with my son. And I remember, we got to the airport, and Brian could see something was wrong with me, and he's like, "Cuz, you okay?" And I told him, like, just going through some stuff. And I remember, like, in the car stopping and saying a prayer real quick, just prayed real quick, and like, this was something serious. And we go and check the bags in. We go to the gate, and then finally, like, you know, like my fiance, I think she was on the plane. She lands, and then we're able to talk now because we've been texting. And like I said, basically giving an ultimatum that if I got on that plane, I wouldn't have a family to come home to. And so, um, I made the only decision I could make. I chose my family. And in hindsight, given everything that happened, it might have worked out better or differently if I had made another choice. But who I am as a person, even if I was back in that situation at that time, I'm going to choose my family. It just is what it is. That's just how I was raised. So I got off the phone with her, and I called Jane Geddes, who was the senior vice president of talent relations at the time, and explained to her that, without giving too many details, that there was a situation at home, and I needed to spend some time with my family. And I'm really sorry, but I don't know how long it's going to take, but I need some time. And she was very nice about it, and talked to Paul Triple H, talked to him right away, and then called me right back and said, Paul said that's fine. They'll book somebody else in your place. I was supposed to be wrestling Zack Ryder, I believe, that loop. Um, and they said they could put somebody else in. Shout out to Zack Ryder, by the way. That's my guy, Matt Cardona. But anyway, they're going to put somebody else in, and that go ahead and take the time. And so then I remember, like, we had to go up to the counter. I had to ask if we can get our bags back, because like the plane was boarding, and we didn't get on. That was the thing, is it was boarding. Um, and so they said normally they don't, but they knew who I was at this time. We're in Chicago O'Hare, so I flew in and out of there twice a week, and they love my fiance, so we're beloved in the city. They had somebody actually go on and get our bags, our luggage, and unload it for us. And so we went down to baggage claim, and I remember just this walk, like thinking, like, am I really doing this? Because it felt like, yeah, I was choosing my family against my career. And it's like, am I really walking away from this? Although, because I didn't know, like I said, that it was serious. So like I didn't know, like, if I was going to be able to come back, or what was going to happen. So I'm nervous about that too. And I remember Brian just talking to me, and it was weird because, like, we went down to baggage claim, and we got our bags. And I remember this guy came up to me, who I thought was like I guess I thought he was a fan or something. He knew who I was, and he said a prayer for me, real quick. And it was interesting because I thought he just wanted an autograph or something. And I have the video. I have the video of this somewhere, because Brian would record everything, and it was a fan interaction and whatever. I just remember thinking, man, this is just a really weird, just weird day, and coincidences and stuff. Anyway, so Brian and I, depart. He goes his way, and I, drive back to my house. And I remember, by the time I got there, I got to my house, the locks were changed, and we had the door had glass. And I remember I could see my nanny inside, who was my ex's cousin, and she sees me at the door. I'm trying to get in, looks right at me, walks off. I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to. There wasn't an argument. Like, there wasn't an argument. That's what I'm trying to say. Luckily, my son, who was like 3 years old at the time, he sees me, Dad. He comes and lets me in. Now I'm in the house. I'm just giving context, and for the weekend, I proceed to then heal my family, and and be there. I'm not going to go into any more details. On March 24th, I send WWE an email and update them on the situation, and tell them I'm not going to be able to make TV this week, and I would say that I'm going to need time off for the time being. And again, please accept my apologies, but I have to take care of my family right now. Thank you for understanding. Mark Carrano, replies, don't worry, Dave, just keep us updated. I will pull you from TVs now. Jane Getty's responds, David, we understand. I spoke with Hunter, and he is fine with you taking the time. Take all the time you need as well. Take care, Jane. So they're very cool about it. So like I'm saying, they're very cool and understanding about it.